Hello, hello, welcome back. And today we're talking about a super deep topic that is so amazing, and I'm super excited to share it with you guys. And we're talking about how to actually be present, but we're going to bring in like the masculine and feminine aspects of it, and the ego, and the narration that's always in our head, and how to deal with all of those things. So let's jump right in. And before we get started, my name is Amanda, and here we talk everything about how to empower women and just make them become who God meant them to be, full of life and joy and, becoming their own dream girl. So, this is one of the topics that will help with that, and it's how to actually be present. So, if you see me looking down, it's because I have my notes. I don't want to miss anything. But I actually got all of this. It was a mind-blowing video from Mina Irfan at the Universe Guru. Definitely check it out because that's where I'm pulling some of this from because it was so good. And I know that when you teach, that's when you learn. So I'm just sharing it with you guys and hopefully I'll remember it better too. So there's these two energies in life, right? There's the masculine and the feminine, and it's part of everything. Like with the river, the feminine is the water that's just flowing through, but it needs the masculine of the river bed itself to hold it. Otherwise, there would be no river, right? And that's how it is with everything. Like the chair that I'm sitting on, it's masculine. It's holding me up. I can just relax into it. I don't have to be holding myself up, also being in my masculine. No, I can just relax into the chair and trust that it's got me. The masculine structures of our house, of, wherever we're in. It's the structure, it's what's holding everything up. That's the masculine part. And the feminine is the flow, it's like the river. It's everything else. It's the depth, like the ocean. It's like the tsunami, it changes. Sometimes it can just be beautiful, and then other times it can be like this whole thing of emotions, and and there's all of it. So we know that there's these two energies in life, and everyone has both of them. So women have both masculine and feminine energy, and men have both masculine and feminine energy. It's like the yin and yang of life. It's just that with women, like they say, 90% of women not identify, 90% of women, like being in their feminine more. That's their natural state. And 90% of men enjoy being in their masculine, the competitiveness, the ruggedness, the getting things done, climbing the corporate ladders, just lots of competition. They like that. They thrive on it. Whereas someone in their feminine energy who's born a woman, that can really stress them out and tire them out and make them lose their radiance and everything because they don't have all the hormones that the man has. So, but we both have both. So that's the masculine and feminine part. But then there's the divine masculine and the divine feminine. That's the part from God. That's where God has both of those. He creates and he's part of everything. And so when we say the divine part of it, that's the part what I'm talking about that is given us from God. When I say be feminine, or this is what you do to act more feminine or to dress more feminine, that's in the lowercase f, for feminine, because it's just a put on, it's a show, it's just the outward appearance. But the divine feminine is the actual embodiment of it, the being energy, the yin of life, the yin and yang. So we have our higher self and our lower self. Like we all know that. We have our spirit part of us, which is, our higher self. And then we have the other part of us, which is like the animal part. It gets, angry, it gets mad, it lashes out, it is, it doesn't use its head most of the time, but then we have our conscious part of us, our spirit part of us, that is just completely loving, and it's like the eyes of God see through it. So we have both of those parts of us. And a lot of us, We get so stuck in the, let's call it the animal part of us, that we forget that we have the spirit part of us. And we get so stuck in, arguing with people and the combating and the mind chatter and, and just our nervous systems just attacking each other, really. And that's not a place where we want to be stuck, because we completely lose our presence when we do that. So I have a little meditation for us so you can actually feel what I'm talking about, and then we're going to put all of it together and it'll make sense, okay? So just really sit in your chair, or if you're sitting on the floor or laying on your bed, and just feel what you're sitting on or laying on, and just relax into it. Like, feel your energy dropping. Like, you can tell, like, all of my energy was very much in my head and shoulder space because I'm in my masculine and teaching. And so I'm trying to, relax that. To kind of do a body scan from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet, and just feel where you're tight or holding a lot of energy, and just release all the energy down. If you have a lot of mind chatter going on, a lot of your mind's just racing, just drop that energy down. Now put it in your womb space and let it go out through the floor, through your feet. Just relax and breathe down. Okay, now that your energy is now in your body instead of just in your head space, say hello out loud 3 times. So hello, hello, hello. And now that you know what it sounds like, make sure your energy is still dropped, because I could feel my masculine jump out a little bit when I was talking. Now say hello in your head 3 times. Okay, so now let's talk about that. So what we just did was we dropped our energy from our head into our body. We got really present. That's what it means to be present with someone. Someone can tell if your mind is just racing and you're not with them. And they can also tell when you are just so in the moment that you are all there. So when we said hello in our head, you could tell that it was yourself. You could make yourself say hello. It's not just this ramble just going on in your head that you have no control over. Like we just showed, you do have control over it. And we can see that in our head there's always the chatter going on. And that's what meditation or prayer is so important, because that's where you can learn to, or practice calming that and getting rid of it, because it really doesn't help. The mind chatter is like, you're driving and you're like, oh, that's a nice restaurant, and oh, why are they driving so slow? And oh, that's a pretty color car. And the thing that's so weird about it is, why are we narrating it to ourselves? Like, we can obviously see all those things. Why do we need to tell ourselves what we are seeing? Like it's so like messed up. Can you see that? And so what it is, that is our ego. And I know a lot of us, we get prickled when we hear the word ego. So we'll call it our software. We're built with this software program. And it's constantly monitoring our environment, checking like what is safe, what is not safe, like all those things. Because for thousands of years, that helped us. That's what kept us alive. The person who was just completely in the moment, they probably missed that a lion is right there and then ate them. But the person who was constantly aware and like their mind was just always on, like checking and all of that, they survived. And so it helped us for a long period of time. But nowadays, it doesn't. It causes more problems instead, because most of us, we don't have a lion that's ready to attack us. So instead, we make our family that lion. We make other people those threats. We make them perceived threats. And we make our life miserable by making them all lions when they're not. And that's what happens with that constant narration in our head. And so we can just let that go. So make sure that you're keeping your energy dropped down, because we did the meditation, so try to hold the pose for the rest of this little video at least. It'll be good practice. And you'll notice the narration is probably already popped up again for you, saying that, well, what is she talking about? Or the sound is really weird. It's not coming through the audio very good. Or, I don't know, whatever you're thinking. This chair is uncomfortable. Whatever you're thinking. That's the narration. We don't have to narrate it to ourselves because we already know everything that's going on. So drop the narration. Relax. Relax into it. Relax into your body again. And why this is so important, and most people don't do it. Most people have no idea what this feels like because they're not present. And they have no idea that there's this computer software that's just completely taking over their life, which is that narration. There's no consciousness involved in that. But when we can just drop down and relax and let go of the mind chatter, just let it, fly away. Just let it float along like clouds. Just give it back to God. That's when we can be completely present. And I know you're probably thinking that, well, I will forget all the things I have to do if I'm just so present. Well, then write it down, make a list. It will help you so much just to get it out of your head. Or if you have all these ideas, organize them, put them on paper, put them in folders in your phone. That's what I do. I have a notes app where when, a transmission for a YouTube video just comes through and I'm like, wow, this is so amazing. I need to write all this down. I sit and I write it all down real quick. I don't think oh, I'll do it later, because by that time it's gone. So just learn to channel in little ways like that through your life, and it'll make it so magical. So now watch if your narration has popped up again, and just drop back into your body. And now we're going to say how this is so useful for relationships, because a lot of people, it's just their program that's going on. And so their mind is going a million miles an hour. Why did he look at her? Or why is he looking like that? Is he mad at me? Did I say something wrong? All these things need to be said. And what do we need to do about this and this and this? All of that is always going on in our head. We can just drop it. Because most people, they have all those things going on in their head. So then it's their computer software that is all agitated. And then it goes and attacks the other person, which then activates their computer software. And then it's just two headbutting things going on. Because your consciousness isn't activated at that point. Because when we drop down and into your body, you notice that, and when we did the hello, in our head part, you realize you are not this body. You are not this. You are witnessing what is happening. So just remember, throughout the day, just make yourself drop the energy and then fall back. You'll feel your true self is dropped in and dropped back. You see yourself. You're just witnessing what's happening on this earth, but you're not part of it. And it's this very interesting concept. I really recommend reading The Untethered Soul by, I can't remember who it's by, but just look up the book. It's a really skinny book, and it is so good. He explains it so well. Or see my video. I made an amazing book review video on The Untethered Soul, and it'll be under my playlist, the book reviews. So go check that out. And he shows that your true self is what is witnessing all the things that are happening. So just remember to drop back and witness, because that's really what's happening. Because once we get into our heads and are just worried and problems and all this stuff, we just trigger other people, and other people trigger us. But the God part of us, the spirit part of us, doesn't get triggered. It's unbothered, it's relaxed. It knows that all of time has already happened, because all time is happening at the same time for God. And it knows the end is written, so it has nothing to worry about. So what happens with most people in relationships is they're always in their head. And the woman is like, so we have 2 computer software programs going on. We'll pretend these are like 2 iPhones or something. And because your narration isn't even a person, so you don't need to have, you can have compassion for it, but it's not even a person. It's not you. So you just have to work through it and be conscious, and that's how you overcome it. But, okay, so say this is the guy, because it's kind of bland looking, and this is the woman. And so the woman is like, I am the prize. Now that's something a woman shouldn't be saying. That's something you embody. That's not something you tell people. It's like telling people, that you are the most beautiful woman on the planet and everyone else is going to think that you're super arrogant, So those are things that you embody. Those are not things you talk about. So anyway, so let's talk about just like how people are in the world nowadays. There's all this content in the internet that the women are like, I am the prize. Well, when she says that, that's not the spirit part of her talking, that's the animal part of her talking, wanting recognition and everything. So now the guy, he's gonna be like, what? No, I am the prize. I'm the one that's bringing in the money. I am the prize. And she's like, no, I am the table. Because he's like, I bring everything to the table. What do you bring to the table? And she's like, I don't bring anything to the table. I am the table, And, and so you can see there's this, it's mind to mind. There's no connection happening. There's no spirit touching the other spirit. It's just that narration, the program in our head triggering the other person's program. And that's what happens in relationships. That's a silly example, but it happens all the time. Like when you're in an argument with your parents or your sibling or your partner, and you're just arguing, that's your head-to-head. It's the, the computer software part of you triggering each other. But what if one of you steps into the conscious part? What if one of you drops in, feels what you're feeling, and witnesses yourself from behind, because your spirit, you drop back and it floats up. And you can see all of this happening. And you just drop into the moment and you're in your conscious part of you. And you see with eyes of love, both of you guys. You see that you are both having a different experience, that you're both trying to get across to each other. And you're both trying to feel seen and heard in the moment, and you're both not feeling seen or heard. So what if one of you steps up and is the conscious part, and let's say the guy is completely riled up and everything, and you say, you know what, I see you, I hear you, you know what, I haven't been very appreciative lately, I can see that. What if one of you does that, steps into consciousness? That will change the whole dynamic. Now that will probably trigger the other person even more, because he's going to try to figure out okay, that's weird, she's never acted like that before, let's see if it's actually real. So he'll probably try to trigger you even more. But if you can just hold the pose and just be present and understand where they're coming from, even if it's completely unreasonable from your point of view, after a while things will start changing. And it's going to be amazing to watch. And you see most people when they're in arguing,